Congress is taking a look at some of those UFO, UAP videos, some of the evidence that is hidden from public view. And one congressman in particular, Tim Burchett, this guy here, is a little bit freaked out about it. He's got a lot of quotes saying that they can turn us into charcoal based on what he's seen. The technology is well beyond human capabilities, saying it can go underwater, cross medium from air into different spaces without changing or anything. It just sort of is amorphous into the different mediums in our world. It's bizarre. But he is hitting the panic button a little bit, saying America needs to see more about this and uncover what is happening here. And so I've got several clips from him. So a little bit of background before we get caught up on what he's talking about as this hearing leads up. We know that this was a story from Fox News and says that he's got a grim take. He saw the UFO footage and says we can't handle it, which is certainly concerning. He comes from Tennessee, says that he has seen the classified UFO footage. This stuff has not been released to the public. Now, he speculated about extraterrestrial life forms could have technology that humanity, quote, can't handle. He appeared on a podcast. He says, look, if they're out there, they're out there. And if they have this kind of technology, then they could turn us into a charcoal briquette. And if they can travel light years or at the speeds that we've seen and physics as we know it, fly underwater, don't show a heat trail, things like that, then we're vastly out of our league. Burchett is sitting member of the House Oversight Committee, which has held hearings about these potential threats from UAP, government-derived term for UFOs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. He says we couldn't fight them off if we wanted to. That's why I don't think they're a threat to us, or they already would have been a threat. His startling comments came after another whistleblower, a decorated Air Force veteran known as David Grush, who is considered by many to be credible, came forward with claims that the government is running a secret UFO retrieval program. House Oversight is preparing a hearing to discuss his unverified claims. Burchett and other fellow Republicans, Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida, are going to lead the investigation. Now, the Department of Defense told Fox there's no verifiable information to substantiate the claims. But since these claims, other, quote, high-level government whistleblowers with high clearances have come forward. Marco Rubio told News Nation in an interview. He said, we're trying to gather as much info as we can, and frankly, a lot of them are very fearful of their jobs, fearful of harm that's going to come to them, he said. Now, he didn't comment on whether he thinks the claims are credible. He says, what I think we owe is just a mature understanding, listening, trying to put all these pieces together and see what information exists. Any employee under contract has to update the government about their documents, and people are investigating this. But Mr. Burchett, the representative, says we've got to do a couple things here. One, declassify the records, and then two, hold hearings so that Americans can know about this. And here's a bit of his interview with Fox.
So, Tim, do you know that the government has this crazy alien stuff and is keeping it from us?
I don't know about that Vegas deal, but the whistleblower, I know him. He's a decorated veteran. I know in Washington, D.C., that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but in East Tennessee, that means a whole lot. Those are the Tic Tac videos you're seeing there right now. Those are videos that were taken by American military. That's their gunners, their gunner photography. And they're actually trying to follow those things. And those are some of the best pilots in the world. So either they're lying or somebody else is lying. And so I tend to go with our military men and women. I've been briefed on things, some things I can speak about and some things I can't. But that's probably a meteorite that you're seeing in Las Vegas.
Well, what kind of things can you talk about? You said you can't talk about stuff.
Well, I can talk. Yeah, I can talk about this. Some of these craft that you're watching right there, they have no heat trail. They defy every bit of physics that we know about. They can fly underwater or swim underwater, I guess, and they basically have no friction, and there is no heat trail. We don't have any idea what's propelling them, and everybody says at first, well, that's the Russians, and you know good and well.
And people were saying that maybe these are just projections. Maybe these are laser lights or infrared beams or something that are being projected into the sky, into the clouds, that are causing some sort of plasma burst in the air because it's coalescing at that point out in the sky, and they're moving it around like a laser pointer, dip, 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 and down into the thing and up and over here, something like this, or it's in the satellite. It could be something that is explainable. And so we're asking ourselves about that. But if it's explainable, then maybe there's a reason why they're not telling us, because it's some sort of a weapon, it's some sort of technology that the DoD uses or something. And so it's interesting. We don't know exactly what these things are, but there's credible people who are appearing and talking about these anomaly, whatever they are.
Putin had a UFO. He'd land the thing on the White House lawn, probably get out, ride a unicorn bare-chested over to the president and punch him in the mouth and then ride back to Mother Russia. If the Chinese had it, they'd own us. I mean, in all seriousness. So you're left with one other conclusion. These things are coming from somewhere else, and this has been covered up since 1947 or sooner. And, you know, we have military personnel that are decorated veterans telling us they've seen these things, and, you know, we just need to get to the bottom of it. I've added an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to declassify all things about UFOs and UAPs, because if they don't exist, then why are they hiding them? And if they do exist, why don't we know about it?
Tell me a little bit about how you know that the UFOs fly underwater.
Well, you just saw a video that just showed that right there. There was one that just trailed, and you can listen to the pilots it's called the Tic Tac videos, like the candy, and you can Google it, and it's been on 60 Minutes, and they literally go underwater and they fly out at the same speed, and these have been documented. And the trouble you've got is these pilots are afraid to come forward, even with whistleblower protection, because what happens, and I've talked to these pilots, they've been interrogated for over 8 hours, some of them, and then they're told not to say anything, and of course it ends up on their record. So I've actually spoken with pilots who said, look, I've destroyed this evidence because I don't want to have to come back and explain it to my superiors and then be subjected to ridicule. And yet it happens time and time again. And I've been told by some higher-ups, Burchett, we got more important things to deal with than this. And I said, well, what's more important than American fighting men and women in $50 million aircraft? We've had 13 certified, I won't say close encounters because that's the movie, but they've had almost near collisions in the air.
Wow.
And this is public record. And yet, when we have a hearing, the Pentagon puts a couple of people in charge of it. Honestly, they couldn't spell UFO. They couldn't stop a 12-second video. Isabel Burchett, my little girl, could have stopped the video. And Adam Schiff, of all the people, I know somebody's head's going to explode on Fox when I mention his name in a positive light, but he said he asked the best question. He said, what exactly am I looking at? Because the video they had was taken with a guy's cell phone inside of a plane canopy, and then they couldn't even stop a 12-second video. The most technologically advanced country in the world. We had the pilot, who was one of the pilots in the Tic Tac videos that had followed these UFOs through the air. He was not allowed to testify before our own intelligence committee. It was open to the public. It was the only one I've ever been able to go to as a sitting member of Congress because I'm not on the intelligence committee. But the only way he got in, he had press credentials, and they wouldn't even let that guy testify. So you tell me, what the heck is going on? Why are they covering this up? I think the world needs to know.
I do too.
Let's get to the bottom of it. Quit hiding it. Quit hiding it. And the work.
Unless it's the U.S. government, unless it's the Pentagon technology. They have the laser pointers, or they have the things that are moving around that way, and they don't want us to know about it. Obviously, it's a national security secret, and so they'll hide behind that umbrella. But it's interesting, he says that there are 13 certified almost near accident collisions in air. And why would that be happening then? Is the Pentagon testing this? Is this wargaming one technology against another technology to see if they can glean some evidence from the tests? Or are they trying to cause a distraction so that we all talk about this and not the Biden crimes? I'd like to know what is going on. So would Congressman Burchett. And he says that they are going to be having a hearing on this and that they're going to be calling additional witnesses, but that the Pentagon is putting pressure on those people as the hearing looms.
What can you tell us about these hearings? Because we had initially heard that the hearing involving the whistleblower would happen later this month. Is that still planned? Is that going to be scheduled officially?
Yeah, I'm not going to say who's going to be at the hearing. We're going to firm that up, and I'll let the committee announce that. But I will say that it'll happen before the end of this month.
Before the end of this month.
You all have been great. You broke before the end of July. Yes, sir. That is our plan. And we're trying to nail down all the details. But, of course, we have the Pentagon pushing against us, calling some of our witnesses, telling them, don't go testify before this committee. If we have to, we'll use the power of subpoena. We'll bring them in there and make them tell the truth. Because this thing has been covered up. It is ridiculous. The Pentagon needs to come forth with the truth. Finally, let's move on to another issue. But until then, I think we need to find out what's going on. And the charcoal briquette comment, everybody always quotes me on that. And the reality is these folks, if they are beings from light years away or wherever, the dark side of the moon, I don't know. Their technology is so incredible that they could have done us, if they can travel light years to visit our little measly planet, then their technology is so superior to anything we've ever seen. And you can see that if you watch the videos. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know the TikTok video right there is, I mean,
Okay.
it's hard to figure out what's going on there. But it's interesting. Some of the lawmakers will say, oh, and we need to know, too, if it's possibly, craft developed by China or Russia or one of our adversaries. But if you watch some of these videos, I mean, if China or Russia have that kind of technology, I mean, that would be crazy. It seems unlikely, don't you think?
Yeah. Do you think that they would have walked over Ukraine and half the world by now? Russia would have, and China would own us. I mean, Putin's ego, he would have landed one of those UFOs on the White House lawn, got out bare-chested, wrestled the president, got back in his UFO and head back to Mother Russia. I mean, let's be honest, with that ego and they're so power hungry. And China's the same way. And also, are our military, are all these pilots lying? Are they risking their lives, their careers, their retirement, everything they have, their reputations for something like this? No, I say no. They're not lying. They're telling the truth. Something is going on. Let's get to the bottom of it and let's move on.
Do you have classified briefings? And I know you can't tell us what happens in those briefings, but I mean, is there just like a ton of information that we don't know?
There's quite a bit. And I've been in meetings and
we don't even know who killed Kennedy.
I guess the CIA or whoever, the alphabet agency's in there, and they're getting nervous when the pilots start talking and telling us things. And they tried to sandbag us down in Florida on a meeting. They told us we were going to have a meeting. They gave us all this other top secret stuff, which was pretty incredible, but had nothing to do with the UFOs. And then we had to call their bluff. We had to call back to Washington, and we had to get the higher ups to release the pilots to speak to us, which is why we flew to Florida in the first place. So there's, I guess there's pride in ownership, whatever. There's just an arrogance about this bunch that I don't trust. Washington is a trash can.
Thank you for watching.
Washington is a trash can. So maybe the Pentagon doesn't know about it. Maybe they're investigating this just like other countries are investigating this. Maybe there are private parties, private contractors, other tinkerers around the world who are experimenting with things, and we just don't know what they are. But I get very skeptical when our own government tries to hide stuff from us and when they try to put their boots on the necks of other people who want to discuss these things. Now, I understand if you're part of the military, you got to follow chain of command and protocol and all of that stuff. And if you go through and fly around and see an alien, probably, report that to your commander, and it goes in the military silo and all of those things. But we also have whistleblower protections, and we also don't want our government to be harming people who are trying to do their jobs in furthering American interests. And so if they follow the laws and want to blow the whistle on some of these things, they should be allowed to do that without fear of repercussion from our government, just the same as anybody else.